Hello and welcome to the first official ever episode of the Grove podcast. I'm Moz, your host, and on today's episode, I'm joined by Andrea,
Hello,
Tom,
hello.
and Wale.
Yo, what's up, people?
Hello.
So, the Grove podcast is all about Arsenal, right? And we're just four from a group of 60 plus people from all over Europe and the world who share passion about the best team in world football. Am I right in saying that, guys?
Sounds about
Oh,
right.
yeah. Absolutely.
So, without further ado, let's just get straight onto the point. What a way to start a podcast when we win 5-0 against Crystal Palace, right? What were your thoughts on the game, guys?
Well, I say for me, it's a great way to come back from the break. It was interesting because I think it was 5 goals, but I don't think quite a 5-star performance. You know, there was some brilliant stuff around the set plays, and our counter attacks were very, very good and efficient. But I still felt we were a little bit disjointed in and around the box. We failed to create in around the box, and stuff like that. So I think great start, great way to come back. But it means also there's still room for improvement as well as we move into Forest and the Liverpool games coming up.
Okay. Tom, what about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it was convincing. I just sort of praise the heavens that we didn't lose, because that would have really sort of put us down, because it was one of the games that we had to win. So it was nice that it was convincing. I think we spoke about it before, where it certainly wasn't one of our best performances of the season, but we can't take any credit away. I think Palace were pretty poor, and it was good to see us scoring from set piece. I know I don't get. It's not that I don't get it, but when I see the stats around how many goals we score from set pieces, it surprises me, because I feel like we've been just not on it at all with set pieces recently. All of our corners have been going to the front post and whatnot. So it's nice to see a score from that. And obviously Martinelli had a sort of banging impact when he came on. So yeah, I mean, you can't complain about anything really.
Can I ask you 2 questions based on that, just before I come to you, Will? 2 questions this is to you guys. Would anyone, aside from Martinelli, so would Trossard or Saka, for example, would have scored the 2 chances that Martinelli had? That's my first question.
I would say Saka, yes, if he was coming from the right hand side, coming in on his left, sweep it in. I don't think Trossard is not a typical winger. That's not what he does. He's more of an interior rather than exterior. Martinelli is more for running on those passes behind the back line, slot it in. Henry which was brilliant. I think everyone liked that, and the way he did it, and the fact that he replicated it. Yeah. So I would say Saka, yes, but not Trossard. It's not his style.
Yeah, I can second that, because both of his goals really came from the pace he has. So I think Saka may be able to match that. He's probably not quite as quick, but Trossard certainly isn't as quick. But I think you could tell later on in the game, Saka was getting a bit tired, as expected. But he did do well. You notice with Martinelli's second goal, Saka did keep up, and he probably could have squared it to Saka if he wanted to. Obviously made the right choice regardless, but yeah, I think Saka did well to sort of get there. And obviously, as we know, he is quick, but Martinelli is just stupidly fast.
Wale, what about yourself? You've been quiet for the first 5 minutes of this pod, so come on, say your piece.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to start off with, I guess I'll be that guy. Am I happy with the performance? Let's see. Palace are 15th on the table, and that was their 10th loss of the year. So 5-0, 6-0, 4-0. We're supposed to get the 3 points. I'm not really that sort of impressed. In respect to sort of those goals at the end, they're a lot easier to score when you're up 3-0. A lot of the pressure's off. Yeah, obviously Martinelli had something to prove, but I mean, again, those situations are a lot easier. I mean, that situation doesn't even come about unless the scoreline is that, and then going down there with not much pressure on. we did what we were supposed to do, basically. I'll sort of reserve my opinions for Liverpool's a big match, and we need to see what's going on with that. They're at home. That's what I'll be concentrating on.
Okay. My other question I was going to ask you guys, aside from if Martinelli or anyone else would have scored the Martinelli chances, Eze for Crystal Palace is way outperforming his talent, right? He is in the wrong team. I could see him at somewhere like Arsenal in the next year or two. I really could. He was brilliant, and it spoke volumes on FOTMob when you could see the ratings after the match. I think no one else for Palace was above a 7.2 or even a 7, but Eze was at 8.0 for his match rating, which just spoke volumes in a 5-0 drubbing. I mean, they never had many chances, but for him to have an 8.0 was quite telling. And I think the Palace fans know that and they're worried about it, hence why we've seen the banners at the end and whatnot.
Yeah, no, he was the one that stood out for me. And, I was quite near the pitch watching the game. You get a really good view of him. So, yeah, no, I'd love to see him in the red and white. I think he just signed a contract extension at the beginning of the year. So he could be quite pricey. So who knows? But, yeah, I think he looks like an Arsenal player in the waiting. It's, as always, it's down to the numbers and where he would potentially fit. But yeah, I know I enjoyed his performance. So it was easy to enjoy it because they were losing and stuff like that. But yeah, he definitely stood out for them.
So, sorry, Will, I was just going to ask you as well what your thoughts were on Eze and if you can see him in an Arsenal shirt, and if not, I have a funny feeling you'll say no for some reason. But I just have a funny feeling you'll say no. So tell us why. Tell us why not.
He's a good player, and I was sitting in the lower section 4, so again, got a good view of him. No real complaints, but I don't watch enough of Palace personally, but in listening to and hearing Palace supporters, he doesn't play the same when Elise isn't in the side. He's not as good. They work really well as a tandem together. So him coming to Arsenal, I could see that, but it's who are we going to be sort of pairing him up with? Are we assuming that Partey is out the door? And the cost. Like the cost is going to make a difference to me too. If you're saying, oh, he's 65, 70 million, I'm going to tell you no. Because I think we could find somebody for a lot less than that. He had a decent rating, but he was the best guy on a bad team having a horrible day. So again, I don't watch enough of Palace to sort of comment on how he is as an actual player, except from hearing from some of the Palace guys that say, yeah, he's good, but you really notice his performance drop a bit when Elise isn't in the side, and vice versa, basically.
So what I get from that is that you think that we're signing Elise and Eze in the summer.
Let's get them all, man. Let's bring them all in.
Yeah. It's not our money, so let's go for it.
We buy enough merch anyway. Look at Andrea's background. No, none of the listeners will be able to see the background, but it's just full Arsenal. So anyway, just wanted to mention a couple of things that I noticed at the game from my point of view, my perspective. The first thing, the most noticeable thing that a lot of the fans around me had mentioned as well was we noticed Declan Rice taking the first corner that led to the Gabriel goal, right? And the guy sitting behind me was saying, no, why is he doing that? We need him kind of at the edge of the box or in the middle of the pitch, just in case they start to counter and he can be the one that breaks it up. But hey, we got a goal from it. Did anyone else see that coming? Was that something that you had thought about previously? Do you guys even think about that kind of thing?
I think he's probably the most dangerous crosser we've got, to be honest. You see him sort of taking indirect free kicks from maybe like 40 yards out and pinging them into the box, and he whips it with pace and power and usually gets it bang on the money. And I can see why people would say that he should be in the box because he's tall or sitting on the edge because he can hit it. But if he's going to put a very good cross in from a corner, then why not have him there?
No, I mean, look, to be honest, it can't we had to make a change after, was it Fulham and West Ham and Liverpool, our corners, particularly from Trossard, and I find it unbelievable that professional footballers cannot routinely take a good corner. I don't know but anyway, so we needed to make a change. So I was all for it, and I said it was right in front of me. What was funny, there was a clip that was released on Twitter, on the social media. The whole Palace fans were giving Declan Rice a whole heap of abuse, calling him whatnot and all the rest of it. And I saw him, and he actually laughed. He smiled, and then he took the corner, 1-0. So it proved it. It proved it worked. But we had to make a change and it's a shame because I think, Tom, you were saying earlier about our set pieces, and they've not been great, and surprised at the number of goals we scored. I think it's now 13 non-penalty goal contributions from set pieces. But I think it's stalled over the Christmas period. So we've been good up until then. I don't know what happened over Christmas, and then hopefully with the last two, with this game, you can see we've been working on it in Dubai. So I'm all for the change, and I don't care who takes them, just as long as they just get the ball in the box and we get ahead on it.
I did see that clip. It was quite funny when Declan Rice had smiled because the camera panned towards the goal, and I just wanted to see Declan Rice's reaction back to the fans when the ball went in the net, because for some reason I think he might have just turned around and gave him a little wink or a smile or a nod, just something that would have been pretty funny. Will, I'll come to you. So another question about, in terms of Saka's performance on the weekend. I've seen tweets about people saying that he's not back to his anywhere near his best form. He's dropped off a lot recently. But I just wanted to hear your thoughts on, obviously he didn't score or assist on Saturday, but what did you make of his performance on the whole, whilst watching the game live?
It's one of those things. I mean, it's been a few games now, and he gets double teamed, triple teamed. My thing is that when you're double and triple teamed, that means that people are open. And I don't know if this isn't being sort of worked on in training about how to spot the open man, but it seems that it goes in there. He'll dance around with it for a little bit, maybe a couple triangle passes, and then it's back out again. He doesn't really seem to be doing too much, to be honest with you. He doesn't seem to be a threat. I can't remember really the last time I've watched him just go by somebody and then have it actually amount to something. So I don't know if he's tired. I'm not sure what it is, but personally, if there were options on that side, the same way with Martinelli, I was like, yo, this guy needs a break, or he needs a reality check to say that you're not, your name isn't written on the team sheet and permanent marker. Because for me, for what he's getting paid, like I need more. Like I expect a lot from professional athletes that make 300 grand a week. Like I do. And I don't care who has anything to say about it. Like that's your job. The same way Tabs can't understand why they can't seem to take a corner. like I'm gonna need I'm gonna need more from you if you're supposed to be a star boy or world class, which he's not yet, in my opinion.
No, it just not to counter it, but just to maybe add to it or maybe provide some reasoning. I think Ben White has not been right for a couple of months. I think he's been injured or something. There's something not right there. So when he's got that outlet who isn't then bombing down the outside of him, overlapping, he's been doing it less. And Ben White looked so much better. I mean, not only is he beautifully tanned, but he was actually making a lot more runs and being a bit more of an attacking threat, and he looked like his old self. So I think that's also had part to play with it. Also, I think Odegaard. So we often compare last year. I don't think Odegaard is quite as close to him, as connected to him this year as he was last year. I think Odegaard's position or role in the team has maybe slightly changed with Declan Rice. So I would suggest also, as you said, the doubling up, the tripling up. But I think there are also other team factors that mean we're not getting the best out of him. But yes, I think the thing is also his level. His bad game is still a 6-7 out of 10.
Yeah,
he never drops below that, and we love him and we want him to do well, and we have high expectations. And so when he doesn't meet those, we always feel a bit uneasy about it. But I think there are circumstances around it as well.
I know he scored. Sorry, Tom. I was just going to quickly mention. I know he scored against Fulham, but no attacking returns against West Ham, the 2-0 loss, Liverpool when we drew 1-1, and Brighton when we won 2-0, and Villa when we lost 1-0 to them. So it was quite quite interesting that 4 of those matches he's not even managed to score or assist or do something of note, which is what this basis of the tweet was. That if you're meant to be, as Wales says, a star boy, and we don't think he is yet. He's not the best in the world or anywhere near at the moment, but he can be. The tweet was basically saying that you need to see it in these sorts of games against the likes of West Ham when you're losing 1-0 or 2-0 and you pick up, or even Fulham when you're losing 2-1 and you've scored in the 5th minute of the game but you're losing 2-1, get the game by the scruff of the neck and take charge and be that guy. That's what we need. But sorry, Tom, on you go.
No worries. Yeah, I think it's difficult to take credit away from him, because it would only be, say, 6 months ago that we would be calling him one of the best wingers in the world. And I think pretty much throughout last season, he showed that, and at least at the start of this season. So, yeah, I think as a collective sort of attacking unit, our front three, so to speak, have not been hitting those stats that we would be expecting from them. And that's just sort of been across the board. And like it's been mentioned, we've got Odegaard sitting a bit deeper, perhaps because we've not got Xhaka anymore. So we're kind of playing with those two attacking minded centre midfielders. So Odegaard's not in the mix as much, and that could have a knock on effect. But yeah, I just think overall, sort of Martinelli's he's not been hitting those goals that he was last season. Odegaard hasn't, and Saka. So it's more of a rounded impact, I think.
Okay. Cool. Another thing I wanted to mention to you guys, I've just got so many thoughts in my mind about this result. I had a 4.5 hour train journey to think about all of this stuff, so forgive me for dumping this all on you guys. But just thinking back to other opinions that I've read online or from hearing from fans, on the tube or on the way out of the stadium, VAR checks in terms of, so we scored 5 goals, right? And I think for 4 out of those 5 goals there was a VAR check or a delay in resumption of play from the kickoff. So in fact it might have been 3. But anyway, I just wanted to hear your guys' opinion, because I think personally, I'll give you my opinion first since I'm asking all the questions, but I'll answer this one as well. I don't agree with it. I hate it. I think the minute when you're waiting, when Palace are about to kick off again, and the referee's telling them to wait, and it's the announcer in the stadium hasn't even announced who scored. I don't think he did for a good few minutes after we scored as well for Gabriel's. I think it might have been his second goal. Fair enough, unusual circumstances, but they just seem to be checking every little thing. And I haven't had a chance to watch match of the day. I don't know if they showed, the what they were checking, the offsides or fouls or whatever on, but certainly in the highlights that Arsenal posted and Sky Sports posted, there was nothing about that. So for me, it just kills the fun in the stadium. You celebrate and then you have to wait, and then the Palace fans kind of give you a little bit of stick, and then you celebrate again, but it just takes away the fun for me. You're always kind of looking at the linesman or the referee to see if they have their finger in their ear. I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Trossard one was the most sort of the one that like with the lines and stuff. So that was close, but it was on. No, but I agree. It did kill the atmosphere a bit. You sort of like, well, do I celebrate fully or not, and all the rest of it. I think the general atmosphere was relatively quiet just because of the circumstances around the game. But yeah, you're right. It does kill it a bit, and it seems like they're looking for reasons why to disallow the goal. Rather than thinking, right, he scored, fair enough. They're looking for any excuse. What can we find to disallow this goal? So rather than being the opposite, saying, how can we make sure that this goal stands? It just sort of seems to be the antithesis of what football's about, that the VAR is doing. So yeah, the first one, Gabriel, he just got up early. He was bigger, stronger, header. The second one, Ben White was just standing still. The goalkeeper then made out that he got in his way, but Ben White was standing his ground, and Trossard was yeah, I'll say miles inside. It was closer than I think we thought. But yeah, so yeah, I agree. It's just a shame that they're looking for reasons why to take away goals rather than have the goals are scored. Nothing wrong. Let's move on, etc.
Yeah, I mean, I think in theory, I've got no issue with VAR. I want the calls to be correct. There's too much money involved. I mean, number one, just from a betting standpoint, you can't go around any town center without swinging a cat and hitting a betting shop. The commercials are all through the game. They're all through the halftime. They're everywhere. So just from that standpoint, I would assume that the Prem would want the calls to be correct because there's literally hundreds of millions, billions of pounds, euros, dollars going on it. From attending in the stadium, I mean, assuming your stadium has like the big jumbotron screens, just show us what you're looking at. The fact that they just put VAR check on there is annoying. And I think that's what bothers people the most. If it was actually to be on there and we could actually see what they're looking at and give the fans something to look at, I don't think it would be as bad. Um, but I mean, would I want like some people for VAR just to go away? Probably not, because again, I just want them to get the right call. So I think we're stuck with it for a little bit while they I don't know, sort of tweak it year on year.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. I think all season, as an Arsenal fan, you kind of felt like the whole world's against you when it comes to VAR. But I'm sure fans of most clubs probably feel like that because you obviously focus more on the decisions that go for and against you for the club that you support. But yeah, I mean, we've had so many sort of controversial, big decisions not go our way this season. I've got to admit, like, obviously none of those goals should have been disallowed at the weekend, but when they were going to VAR, I was confident that some of them were going to get overturned, just because, like Andrea said, you kind of feel like that they're looking for a way or looking for an excuse to not give us a goal. But yeah, thankfully that didn't happen.
In terms of the overall result, though, right? Let's just wrap this up, this part of the pod, with by talking about the game by just saying, obviously, a 5-0 win, huge victory for us. Good to get a good goal difference, especially after Liverpool beat Bournemouth 4-0 subsequently on Sunday. Good to keep pace, put a little bit of daylight between us and Villa in terms of goal difference and that kind of thing. But the one thing I was most impressed about was, and I've been an avid Aaron Ramsdale lover for a long, long time now. But the one thing that I was most impressed with was David Raya. He made that one misplaced pass, shall we say, that almost gave me the nightmares from Southampton last season with Ramsdale. But um, certainly the throw for the goal, just I seen it again on Twitter this morning. I seen someone put down saying Aaron Ramsdale would have caught that ball, fell to the ground, and stuck his tongue out at the away fans. So that was quite telling that, David Raya got the ball. We don't know what Aaron Ramsdale would have done, but Raya got the ball, picked it up, and just found the most perfect throw. And that just summed up what kind of afternoon we were having and going to have in the game. It was just everything was working well for us in terms of the chances that we managed to score. So yeah, overall great performance in my opinion. After the last few games, I know you guys are saying it's not a 5 star. I don't agree. It's not a 5 star performance. Um, or I agree. I should rather say that it's not a 5 star performance, but great to get back to winning ways. Win 5-0 when we've not really we've won one in the last 7 before that. So it was just a good way to start this next run, and hopefully we can kick on. Just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on Emil Smith Rowe, because obviously he came on with what, maybe about 25 minutes or so of the game to go. I just wanted to hear your thoughts on, first off, the reception he got, which was amazing inside the stadium, and just in terms of where do we go, because in the morning of the game there was news about him potentially being linked with West Ham, which obviously was rebuffed by both sides, to be honest, on social media. So yeah, just interested to hear your thoughts on Emil Smith Rowe and what role he can play in this team.
I think we can all say that he had an impact when he came on. He looked sharp, but that was against a Palace side that was done. They'd lost the game. they kind of quite they're giving up a bit. So yeah, he had an impact, but for me, he's almost not been putting on that display when he's come on in other games this season. He's sort of been coming on and just not really looking like he's going to get us a goal or really changing the game. We all love him, so it's hard to say that you'd want him to go elsewhere. Obviously, him and Saka are hair end boys, but yeah, I don't know. Does he need more game time, or because he just seems to be coming on sort of like towards the end of the game, and he'll get a few minutes game time, but should we see him start a couple of games maybe? Yeah, I'm not sure. I wouldn't want him to go anywhere else, but he's not been massively effective, if that makes sense.
Let me ask you this though, right? If we were to receive a bid tomorrow morning for 65 million for Emile Smith Rowe, would you take it?
You can't, of course. Take half of that.
Yeah, 25. Yeah.
Would you seriously take 25 mil for Smith
He
Rowe?
is,
Yeah.
Marsh,
Yeah.
he is done. Arteta has shown us
gone.
his plans to him. The only reason he got in that game was because the scoreline, and we had to give some people some rest. And he's one of the only guys to put in. Like he's done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
So
we're terrible at selling, and we make it so clear when a player, when Arteta makes it when he's no used to him anymore. So maybe this is part of the straight. Yeah, obviously he's going to talk him up and all the rest of it, and maybe he has to give him more game time, and maybe he can contribute. But we're living off 2 years ago. We're living off Saka, Emile Smith Rowe coming in. Okay, he saved Arteta's job, I would say, to a certain extent, and they came in and did a great job. But that's like, we're talking 2 years now, and I think we've moved on. I think Arteta doesn't like him because of his off the ball work. So attacking wise, great. Off the ball, nothing compared to Jesus, Saka, Havertz, Martinelli, and all the rest of it. Odegaard,
Yeah.
defensively. So he doesn't offer that, and so basically, if you don't do what Arteta wants, as back to your point about, I was going to mention something about Ramsdale. That's why he's out of favour. Smith Rowe. So of course he's going to talk him up and say, yeah, he's been great and all the rest of it. But yeah, for me, maybe taking a leaf out of Wales' controversial book. Yeah, for me, I'm agnostic, shall we say? I just want the players to play well and do their best and all the rest of it. I'm not going to be wedded to him. If he's not performing, then let's do the most that we can sell him. So actually, on the West Ham point, if he went there, did well, increased his value, fine with me. The only issue is that if we don't have bodies and when we need bodies towards the end of the season, but yeah, no, I like him coming on if he does well, but I like any player that comes on and does well. So yeah.
I think if we were doing this podcast on the 1st of January and the transfer window, had just opened and Smith Rowe was being linked with other teams, then I would say, yeah, absolutely sell him, because we could easily strengthen and get someone who would actually be a regular, potentially not even starter, but someone who comes on and can make a serious impact, like a Martinelli or a Trossard or someone like that. But now there's a week left of the transfer window, or just over a week. So I don't know whether there's enough time to, even if we did sell or loan him out, is there enough time to replace? I doubt it. I don't even think we're linked to anyone, but we'll come on to that in a little bit. In terms of, speaking of transfer window, obviously we all seen Ivan Toney's return for Brentford. It was interesting that he got such a good reception, and someone had said David Brooks returned from cancer and is playing for Bournemouth again, and no one made a big deal about that. But for Ivan Toney, they're like, did they not dim the stadium lights and play WWE music and things for him to come back onto the pitch? And there was a full thing, a countdown on Brentford's Twitter. And this was all whilst Ivan Toney was saying that he is happy to move to a bigger club, but he wants to stay at Brentford for a while because he wants to repay the faith. And I don't know. So yeah, just interested to hear your guys' views on, firstly, his goal that potentially shouldn't have been a goal, and I think that Forest have complained about it officially, and also would you take Ivan Toney at Arsenal in this transfer window?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty pathetic, to be honest. The entrance he got. I mean, he's coming back after breaking the law, really, isn't he? So it's not really something you want to sort of glamorize. But I mean, yes, they should be happy with him coming back, but I think it's just way over the top. The free kick, I mean, it's a good goal. I saw him sort of like move it across and then sort of like moved the disappearing paint across. So yeah, that's definitely a bit dodgy. And very bold for him still in his first game back, especially given the circumstances. But and then so going on to him at Arsenal, to be honest, I think he's a great player, but I wouldn't want him there personally. Just it's down to his personality. If I'm honest, I think he's a bit too arrogant. You see him in the Diary of a CEO interview. He sort of said a few things in there that were questionable for me, but I just sort of like let that pass. But then recently, where he's been saying, "Oh, if the right bid came in, then who knows? Obviously, I want to move to a top club." Blah blah blah. I think that's disrespectful to the club that he's playing for. We don't want to play him like that here. Ability aside, I think he would do a good job up top, but I think he would just fall out with Arteta, and things would go pretty south. Then you've got maybe in a year or two time, you've got £100 million player, sorry, that you need to get rid of.
I think he's quite old as well, isn't he? In terms of what Arteta looks for, in terms of what Arteta looks for, do you reckon? Do you think Arteta maybe goes for younger now? Hence why we're not signing Benzema and whatnot.
I mean, it's a big difference between 36 and 28. I mean, like one's in the absolute middle of his physical prime, and the other one's past it. For me, yeah, he wants to get the age profile lower because these players are cheaper. But I mean, sports is the what have you done for me lately? We need to win now. I don't care about 5 years from now. Tony is good now. He's in his prime now, and it will get to a point. I mean, Arteta's lucky that Big Stan doesn't care about soccer, because if he did, he wouldn't let a manager interrupt and cause any issues with players who he thought could win games. If this was his NFL team, he would not let a coach come before a player, because players win games, coaches coach. Like when it gets marginal, a coach should make the difference, but they're not out there on the pitch. They're not out there on the field. I'd like to see him come, but what, for 100 million? It's a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money, and they're not going to let him go in January. Like you really, it have to be something stupid like 150 million for them to even think about letting him go.
No, they're not letting him go. I mean, and Bremo is injured. Wissa's at the Afcon. Okay, so no, they're short. They're not going to let him go. He's not what I'd take him at half the price, 100 million. That's a lot of money. But yeah, to Wales' point, I'd love to see him here. I think it'd be good. It'll be an option. I think he's great. His age profile, he's fine in his prime. You're right. We need to think about. Yeah, we can't always be on a project. We can't always be. Oh, we'll get there in 2-3 years' time. You know, at some point we've got to start winning things. Got to sort of make this project count. As for his free kick, I'm all for that. It's up to the referee to manage the game. If he can do it and move it, and okay, if he was on our team and he did that, would you say, oh no, I don't? No, of course you'd love it, and why not? It's opportunistic, and I'm all for it. Yeah, and I didn't realize he moved the phone when I saw that. Okay, that's maybe taking it too far. If he just moved the ball, because you see it, goalkeepers do all the time. They spin the ball forward and it goes 10 yards. People move, so yeah, I'm not going to get my knickers in a twist about that. What would be interesting is how Arteta manages Maverick inverted commas players, because he likes to have nice people around him, nice players, all the people with a bit of attitude, a bit of personality, shall we say, a bit bigger, try and be bigger than the club, whatever it is. He's moved on, so maybe the next stage of his development as a coach, as a manager, is one thing having all your Hale End boys or the nice players. How are you going to manage a team where someone's maybe brilliant on the pitch and will win you trophies, but maybe not so great in the dressing room? And that would be interesting for Arteta in his evolution as a coach, is how he deals with that, because you can't go through being a football coach without having to deal with these personalities. And I don't think that's in his wheelhouse at the moment.
What other player in world football is like that? The big ego. What other striker in world football is big ego and realistically an option for us to sign? Because my mind thinks, is Vlahovic that type of character as well? He comes across that way, doesn't he? Just big, egotistical, but
They've
he's
all got an ego. They're professional athletes, man. It's
Yeah.
like they've all
yeah.
got an ego. Just
But
some of them
what I
hide
mean
it better
by
than others.
But what I mean by that is, like, you look at Gabriel Jesus and Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli, right? These guys, you can tell, are just yes men. They'll say whatever Arteta asks them to do, which is fair enough, and that's what, as Andrea says, that's what Arteta likes. But if you have a Vlahovic or a Toney, for example, is that the only two players? Are there any strikers in world football that Arteta thinks that he can tame? Essentially, I don't think there is.
We don't really want him to tame them, do we? I mean, a lot of these guys, the edge is what gives them their abilities. I don't want my manager taming anybody. I mean, I don't want you obviously creating divisions in the locker room, but like I don't need a sports psychologist for my manager to be. I need my manager to be able to manage the players, go out there, score goals, come back, and just don't tear the whole thing down. There seems to be a shortage, to be fair, of like primetime strikers in the prime of their careers. So yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, Toney keeps popping up because obviously he's here in the country. He's, as people like to say, Premiership proven, and it's obviously he's going to move on from Brentford. But yeah, I wouldn't know who else we could even be really speaking about that's feasible, for us to get, and that can get along with Arteta, because eventually he's going to have to get along with somebody that he doesn't like, or the ownership will move him along.
Yeah.
So we're not seeing any Lacazette Cedric style training ground bust ups for a while yet. Then,
but they happen all the time. We just don't hear about it.
That
must happen all the time. Look, you've played football at various levels, Miles, and all the rest of it. People disagree or heat of the moment stuff. So that, I don't get too stressed about that. But I think Arteta needs to maybe at some point bite the bullet. The only thing is, if he was to splash 100 million on one player, you've always got to think bigger picture. We've got to rebuild our midfield. I think in the summer we need potentially wide forward. We need some defense. So it's not always just about can we get the player. It's what is the impact of splashing all your cash on one player versus the rest of the team. So I think we all agree. I don't know. I think it's great. I think he'll do really well, but it's price. Yeah, I think they're pricing him out, and Brentford are saying 100 million. Because they can. The reality of the situation, unless Chelsea come along and say, okay, here you go. Yeah.
I think
just to quickly round that off with Toney, I think regardless as to whether you want him or not, I think we want to, because he's had so many 8 months out. You want to see him sort of like put in and getting those goals for at least 6 months before you spend 100 million on him. I think it would be foolish to do that now.
I think it would be the most stupid decision from the club if we had signed Ivan Toney for 100 mil. Even if we sign him for 70 plus, I think it's just stupid. He's good at Brentford, but I don't know. I just can't see us doing it. I really can't. And I know Andrea say it's time for us to stop doing a project all the time and just sign that one person. But I really think that the club see us as that team who are having a young core of players, growing a little bit older together, and then kick on. It'd be really interesting to hear what the 5-stage plan is and where we're at now, and where the club would have seen us this season.
The thing is, we're say with that that project, we've got 2 years that we need to maximise. So to make most of the players. So for instance, something you take Saliba. Saliba's gone in 2 years' time unless we're like at the top table and we're winning things. Yeah, okay, that's there, and then the knock-on effect of that. So, yeah, I think we all like the project. We all like evolution and stuff like that. But I think Wale also mentioned it. You got to do something now. And to use the NFL speak, Kroenke just splashed all his money on winning the 2020 Super Bowl or 2021 Super Bowl, and they're paying for it now. But boy, they had a great season. They're champions and so on. So at some point, you've got to bite that bullet, and the project stops being a project, and you're here and now. Because the other teams, at some point, Man United will get their act together. Chelsea, annoyingly, they got money. Liverpool are Liverpool, City or City. We can't always just be that. Oh, we're only 1 or 2 players away from a decent squad.
I love how you never mentioned Tottenham in that, because we all know
Well,
Tottenham
yeah.
will never win a trophy, right? It's even funnier that Harry Kane's not going to win the Bundesliga and Granit Xhaka will win it before Harry Kane does. That is just blowing my mind. The one season
It was
Bayern
there. It was there on the tip of my tongue. No.
Just looking ahead then, a week tomorrow until our next game, Forest away, which is quite a long time when you think about it. We've just had that week-long break. I don't know if we should just send the players back to Dubai for a quick 4-day stint and see if they come back even better after this. But
Yeah, Ben
quite nice.
White needs to top up his tan.
I mentioned during the game, funnily enough, how tanned he was. He was running down the wing, and I was in the clock end in the upper tier. And I remember him in the first half just running down the wing, and I just said to my friend who was next to me, I said, he has got a really nice tan, doesn't he? And the guys in front were just laughing, chuckling to themselves. And he just there was a picture going around on social media, wasn't there, of him in Dubai next to Declan Rice, and what
That's
a difference
ridiculous.
that was.
But that tan is unhealthy. Like, let's be honest here. You call it nice, but that tan is unhealthy. Like, his skin's gonna like worn out leather in like 5 years.
I just hope Ben White doesn't listen to the Grove podcast.
No, he won't. It's about football, so don't worry about it. He won't be listening to it at all.
There we go.
But yeah, looking ahead to Forest, it's quite interesting that obviously we have a fair break, if you like, between games. To be honest with you, I can't see anything past us winning against Forest. I don't think they looked great, even though obviously they played okay at times. But when you only have Chris Wood as an outlet, really, I think we can cope with him. I think Saliba and Gabriel will be able to cope with him pretty well. Brentford made it difficult for themselves. I watched the game, and they made it difficult for themselves. But yeah, I just can't see anything past us winning it at Forest. And really, this is our chance. I think you'll all agree with me that this is our chance now for us to kick on, right? If we beat Forest, we go into the Liverpool game full of confidence. We've won 2 out of the last 2 games. Even if we beat Forest by say 3 or 4 goals, put up our goal difference a bit and really come down on and breathe down Liverpool's necks. So I'm assuming you all think we're going to beat Forest, all right?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's like, if you put it down to ability and team sheets, then yeah, you would say we'd win all day. But as we know, that's not always the case. Obviously, we went to Luton and yes, we won, but didn't expect them to stick 2 past us. And City grounds are a difficult place to go. The crowd will be up for it because, as they always are with the big games or the big teams. So yeah, I think the players will be up for it, the crowd will be up for it. So I don't think it will be easy, but we should theoretically win.
I think Forest performance levels have also increased a wee bit since this whole the financial breach has been announced. I think they're trying to prove a point here and potentially survive relegation as well, right? So if they get 10 points deducted, they'll be on 10 points at the moment as it stands, and that'll put them 19th, just above Sheffield United.
Yeah, I think since Nuno's come in, I think they have improved. They've got Bristol City away in the cup on Friday, so a bit like us playing Palace. Palace had to play midweek before we played them. So so again, as Tom's saying, yes, we should win. Yeah, on paper we should win. Unfortunately, football's played on grass, so and things can who knows what happened. But yes, I would stay rested, and I think the 10 days is good for us because we saw Declan Rice coming off saying hammy, so we don't know what's up with him. Martinelli, I think he was on the bench because he wasn't 100% fit, so it gives him more time to come back. Gabriel with a knee knock as well. So I think we're quite fortunate that we've got 10 days to potentially rest up and all the rest of it. So, but even with other players coming in, I would say I'm fairly confident of us. We have to. These next 3 games, or these 3 games, Palace, Forest, and Liverpool, will have a huge impact on what our season's going to look like. And those 3 together, it's hard. We have to get 9 points minimum. I'm afraid to say, because when you've got City getting up ahead of steam, saw Liverpool. Yeah, we have to win.
The good thing about I know we're talking ahead to the Liverpool game, and don't worry, guys, whoever's listening, there will be another episode, weekly episodes of the Grove podcast. This is not a one-off. Can't promise that Tom will be invited back, but hey, you never know. Before we
That's
before we
good.
before we play Liverpool, Liverpool have to play Fulham in the League Cup, Norwich in the FA Cup, and then Chelsea, which is good for us, I guess, right? Because if we only have to play Forest, and then we've got ample time in between these games. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think we need maximum points from these fixtures. So, yeah, Wale, your thoughts? Forest, we're going to win, right? And then we're going to sign Chris Wood.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like everybody else said, we're supposed to win, but unfortunately, we don't have one of those teams where you can just sort of pencil this in. For the most part, there's some teams when they play other teams, you're like, yeah, they're gonna win because we're so much better. Yeah, I'm 95.5, like we'll win. If I was if I was gonna bet, I'd put some money on it. But you never know. It could be this is a traditional trap game, as they call it. Players could easily be looking forward to Liverpool. Oh, Forest. Well, we'll take care of them, and then the big games at Liverpool, and then we go and drop points at Forest. So it's nervous times, man. It's nervous times. We just got to wait and see what happens, man. But I'm confident a little bit.
Mate, you need to get that. You need to get those splinters out of your backside, man. So...
Yeah, man.
I have a fear that if we don't take maximum points from Forest, then that could be our season just unravels slowly, and people will look at Palace as that one anomaly of we won in this run. But to be honest with you, I can't see us dropping points against Forest. I really can't.
Yeah, I think the thing is because Man City have just set the bar so high that any points dropped just seems like a disaster. If it was any other, say 5 seasons ago, you'd have a bit more leeway. Now you just anything, and it just ramps up the pressure on every game, and you can just see them just turning out. De Bruyne is back, Haaland will come back at some point, and it just makes it just every game now is like, wow, it's intense. You've got it, and that's why the emotional reaction is so high, because you're in fear when you drop. And now Liverpool are building up a bit of steam. It just you start looking down rather than up, and things like that. So I think that's why normally you think, for us away, yeah, all good, not going to stress it too much. Because now every game is like from here on in. And as I said, that's why these 3 games make a difference to where the season goes there afterwards, because coming back is not going to be easy. That you are then relying on others to fail, and for you to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, I think. I mean, even if we do get the upper hand over Liverpool and win these next 2 games, you've really got to rely on City not going on an absolute rampage and just De Bruyne and Haaland tearing up the Premier League. I've got to admit, I'm slightly worried about that, but hopefully it doesn't happen.
Don't forget, after Liverpool, we've got the Declan Rice derby as well. So West Ham fans will be right up for that after beating us earlier on, the end of last year. So I think, we just need to kick on right now. We need to have really good results, really good performances, put some confidence back into the team, but also, which brings me on really nicely to my next and final point, is the confidence into the fans as well. Now, obviously, 12:30 kickoffs, right? They're always a little bit flat. People don't have time to go to the pubs before the game, and there's train strikes, and just different factors at play, right? But there was one part, Wale, we were walking to the ground together, which was quite nice, quite romantic, by the way. Just me, you, and my friend who was kind of third wheeling, but it was quite nice to walk with you to the Emirates.
Are you holding hands?
No, we weren't.
No, I don't think we were. It was cold, but it wasn't that cold. And I don't know if you remember this, but we turned towards, I don't even know the name of that street behind the Horatia, but we turned onto the street, and I just shouted Red Army as loud as I could. And there was a couple of Palace fans behind us singing some Palace songs. The Palace Ultras, we'll call them, all four of them. And not one Arsenal fan who was walking around. It was pretty busy, 10 minutes before kickoff. Not one Arsenal fan replied to my chant. Not even Wale, who was right next to me.
So, I do remember it. I remember it very well, and I was like, "This is awkward."
It was really. Think about how I feel. I'm the one that shouted it. Uh, and yeah, it was quite telling. At that point, I thought, right, are people nervous? It was quite a nervy. It was a nervy atmosphere before the game, but obviously it could be because we haven't really had a good performance of late. But it was just quite telling. And then I don't know where everyone else was sat, to be honest, in the game. I forget, but where I was in the upper tier of the clock end, the atmosphere was great. Singing all the way through. We were standing for a little bit. We were there was good chants going on, and yeah, the atmosphere was great from where I was sat. So interested to hear your opinion on that, guys, and we'll go in order of Andrea, Whale, and then Tom, because you weren't at the game. I want to hear your opinion of what it was like on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, just I think I've got a couple of notes here, and I think, as Wales said, awkward. People may feel awkward. You're just walking along. I think everyone supports in their own way. So for me, if people like to sing, they like to sing. If they don't, they don't. I don't criticize or care either way. And also, you just shout out. People aren't expecting it, and that group mentality like you get in the stadium isn't quite there yet. So they're all just getting their way to the game. They're in their own space. They're doing whatever, chatting with their mates. So I wouldn't be critical of people not responding. I think if it's in the right environment, like we've done in the past in the pub, we've had chance, or you're in the stands, that happens. Just when you're walking there, I don't think you've got that herd mentality, the group mentality as such. Even though you're there for a common reason, you're not as one. You're still a group of individuals going towards. And then it's when you get nearer the stadium and in the stadium that you are that more of a homogenous unit, which then responds, and you've got the call and response type stuff. So there. And in terms of the atmosphere in general, I think it was good. You're right. Typical 12:30 game against a team that were expected to beat. Not a great rival. We go 2-0 up, half time. People are chat, yeah. So I ain't gonna worry, stress it too much, and stuff like that. It was as expected.
Whale, what do you reckon? Where were you sat, Whale, for the game?
So I was lower and right on the corner flag of the west stand north
Okay.
side.
Okay.
So, I mean, I didn't notice that the atmosphere wasn't great. I mean, there's this. I've sat there before. It's my buddy's season ticket. So there's a guy a few rows behind us who's always getting it going. So it seemed all right from my standpoint. I mean, I'll be honest with you, man. A bit of a hot take here. Um, I think the atmosphere matters more to the fans a lot of times than it actually does to the players. If you sort of look at, I mean, City, for instance, they're not really known for having the most raucous, vociferous crowd, but they seem to do okay. Newcastle, fantastic crowd. They're kind of so. Yeah, it's like I said, man, like players play, players win games. So it's nice to get it going and it could amp them up a little bit, but it's. I mean, that place could be a library as long as we're winning games. It's not going to bother me. And as Cabs was saying, like everyone's not the same and everyone doesn't support their team and singing and this and that. I mean, I'll be honest with you, just coming from a North American standpoint, we're not singing at our games. So that already to me is foreign. And you've got North American fans, you've got Asian fans from like Far East Asia where they're not really doing that sort of thing either. So yeah, I think you should clap and maybe yell a little bit. But I mean, what for me, what the most important thing is that your home team looks around the stadium and sees that it's full. Now, if they see it's empty, that could be a little bit of an issue for them. But as long as the crowd is there, it shouldn't be as big of a talking point as it is, to be honest with you, in my humble opinion.
What was it like on TV, Tom?
I mean, I don't want to deep it too much, but I think it seemed a bit quieter. But I mean, obviously, we've been to games this season against opponents sort of like at the level of Paris, and it's been similar. I think the fixture makes a huge difference. I mean, take our fixture against City, for example, it was booming. But then you've got teams like Paris, Everton, and whatnot, where it's gonna be a bit quieter. Slightly different take to well, but it matters a lot to me in the sense of like when the crowd's rolled up, and then you've got like Zinchenko and Odegaard like getting the crowd going, and it sort of like gives you that buzz, and I think that bounces from the fans to the players and vice versa. and not just for the game. You're buzzing for the whole week. Like if you've come out of a game where the atmosphere's been rocking and it's just a complete buzz. And I do think it sort of reflects onto the players. Sort of using that Man City example, that's kind of all they're used to. They're not used to a big loud atmosphere, whereas we've shown that we can do that. So in the games where we're not given that, I think it sort of just puts things down a little bit. But yeah, that's my take.
Interesting. That brings us to the end of our first official Grove podcast, guys. Very well done. Thank you so much, in fact, firstly and foremost, for taking part. It won't be the same 4 people every time. There is obviously a large group of us, over 60 of us in total. So we will chop and change. Whoever pays me the most basically gets on. That's how it works from now on.
You've already booted me out, so that's right.
Just wanted to give a shout out to the rest of the Grove family who are listening, and we will be back in, well, not next week, but after the Forest game for our preview of Liverpool. I'm so nervous about Liverpool already. And a review of when we win 8-0 against Forest. So, nice one. Thanks for your time, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Catch you in a bit.